Happy Mother's Day. Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope great. Happy Mother's Day. At first I was gonna make this video on live, but then I was like, I don't know, I don't think that's gonna work. So I'm just gonna basically tell you guys a story, and I don't know, just I'm gonna get into it, okay? My reason for doing this is basically because I live in fear every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think that when I walk outside my house that my kid's father will be there to physically harm us. So that's number one. Number two, I'm making this video because I don't have justice for myself. You know, I talk a lot about, you know, I want justice for my stepfather, the people that killed him, my child's father, just different things and different things going on in the world. And I never really talk about myself and my own story, so I'm gonna do that today. And basically, I'm gonna give you a little background story. Growing up, I had a pretty good childhood. I had some things go on that I'm not really gonna touch on, but I did have some things go on in early life that may have led me to start acting out, if that makes sense. At a young age, I was doing things that I shouldn't do. And that's why it's important to stay on your kids at a young age and let them know that they're loved. Because if not, there's that potential that they'll look for it somewhere else, which is what I did. Not saying that I didn't have love growing up, because I say it all the time. I had a family that genuinely loved me. But I just feel like there were some things, you know, some other things that that's not what I'm here for today. So anyways, I got married young. I was maybe, I think I was 17. I got married to my son's father, Gerald. I had already had a daughter with my daughter's father, and he had got killed, but me and Gerald were already together long before that. So that's neither here nor there. But in 2015, I met this man named Leonard. I was in a dark place at that time in life, and me and my cousin, we were living out of a hotel. So it was like really a rough patch. I had, you know, my two kids, Aaliyah and Gerald. So it was just really like a rough patch in my life. And when I met him, it was just different. He was this tall, dark-skinned man, different from what I'm used to, like tall, dark-skinned from Alabama. It was just really different for me. And I don't know, we just clicked. Like, it was just instant. And we hit it off. And from there on, like, we were inseparable. And I remember I was like, knew him for like 2 months, and I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, so ashamed, so embarrassed. Like, you know, I already have 2 kids, and there's a red cardinal just flew past. So I do have 2 kids already, so I was just really ashamed and embarrassed, and I didn't know what really to make of the situation. Like, do I get an abortion? Like, what do I do? And he was like, no, I'm gonna be here for you. Like, he let me know everything was okay. So then like maybe not even I would have been maybe 2.5, 3 months, New Year's rolls around, and this is the first instance, which was a red flag, but I was only 19, so I was still a kid. And that's why I say it's important to let your family know that you love them, because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell my family. You know, I had already had 2 kids. My life wasn't going great. Me and my cousin, you know, thank God I had her. Shout out to Janisa. Like, it was just a rough patch. So we were at this New Year's party, and I remember he was doing Percocet 30s. There were these like little blue pills, and I could just like vividly remember, like, that's a lot. I had smoked weed before, you know, but I had never done pills or anything, and I'm just like, that's a lot. And I think that's a, you know, like I said, another red flag. But I didn't say anything. I didn't think anything of it. And he had pulled me into a bathroom, and so we're in this bathroom, and we're talking, and like mid-sentence, he pulls out a bag of Coke and puts it on the counter and just got to work. And I'm sitting here like, oh, heck no. Like, but I said H-E-L-L. That's exactly what I said. I was like, oh, hell no. I'm like, I know I am not having a baby with a crackhead. Because at that point in my life, I had done so much. And I just knew, like, you know, Tierra, you you've led a rough life this far. Like, don't keep risking your chances, especially like, how does that look? Like, how does that look? So I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm about to have a baby with a crackhead. No, I'm not doing that. Next thing I know, he just walled off and punched me in my head. And I like fell back into the shower, and I was just in a daze. And I got up. I wasn't crying or anything. I was like just shocked, stunned. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, did you just hit me? And he got to crying, talk about, baby, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. And he was just all dramatic about it, but like rushed me out the house, and we left the party and went back to the house, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. But that story right there, I'm gonna let you know, if you're in a relationship and a man puts his hands on you one time and he cries and I'll never do it again, please, baby, don't listen. If it's a girl doing it to you and you're a man, it's the same situation. Baby, do not listen to them. If they do it once, they'll do it again. That's the thing. And once you forgive them, it opens up that door to let them know that it's okay. And it's not okay. Nobody should ever put their hands on you. And once again, I wasn't secure in myself because I had been through so much at that point. My confidence level was up to here. Like, growing up, I was never ugly. I always had that confidence. But I just was never like, I don't know how to explain it. I just had been through so much, and I had just lost my stepdad. I had just lost my daughter's dad. Me and my husband had separated. So I was really just in a dark place. Let me calm down because I might cry. Okay, so anyways, I had to wipe my tears. So anyways, that was just like the first instance. And then like I did stay with him. And so the next time was like, I had ended up moving in with him because, like I said, me and my cousin were staying out of the hotel. And she wasn't living with us, but she was there with me like every day. And he would always try to like distance her from me. So that's what an abuser does. They try to take your family away from you. And it's not okay. Like, he was really upset that he couldn't do that. He couldn't take my cousin away because we had always been close like that. And we had been through so much. It was like, that's one relationship you can't take. And he didn't like that. So I can remember on Memorial Day, I'm not going to speak on exactly happened with his child, but an instance happened with his child that didn't pertain really to my kids, but my kids were brought into it, if that makes sense. And I remember he got to hitting on his child, his daughter. And I'm not going to speak on her or her name or anything like that, but I'm just going to put that out there because it is relevant to the story. So anyways, I'm sitting here like, man, like, we gotta go. Like, we can't keep doing this. Like, my kids can't be exposed to this. Like, I can't do this. And my cousin's there. He has some of his friends there too. Like, it's a lot of his friends, mostly men. And they had a couple of their girlfriends and stuff. But I'm like, I'm not doing this. We leaving. So next thing I know, I went to go leave. He picked up a chair and threw it at me. I'm pregnant with his son. I got my 2 kids with me. He picked up the kitchen chair and threw it at me. And he just started fighting me. And I was screaming. And I just remember thinking, like, he's really fighting me in front of these people. He does not care. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And my cousin was the only one. Like I said, room full of men. She was the only one. She's tiny. She's shorter than me. I'm 5'7". She probably like 5'4" or something. Sorry, I got choked up. She ended up coming up and breaking it up. She jumped in the middle. Like, she inserted herself in between me and him. And I'm pretty sure she got hit a couple times. Like, and I just remember, like, no, I can't do this. So I left and went to go stay with my Aunt Karen. And she's one of those people, like, she was always there for me. So and she only lived 20 minutes away in Reynoldsburg. And she lived in Columbus. We were living in Reynoldsburg. So at that time, I did go stay with her. And then, I don't know how it happened. I ended up getting back with him. I really can't say how I got back with him. I can't really remember how I got back with him. But when I did get back with him, when I went back, it was like a constant abuse. Like, it was just a drown out phase of my life that I can remember, like, thinking to myself, why are you with him? Why are you with him? The abuse was so bad around maybe 6 months pregnant with my son, which is his son, Leonard. I ended up going into labor. They had to take my son early and everything. Like, they had me emergency C-section and they gave me a spinal tap. So I had him early. And I remember whenever I was recovering, it wasn't even a few hours later, I was in the hospital room, and the people came back and told me, because I'm still married, I can't name him. Like, I can name him after him, because in the state of Ohio, you can name them whatever you want. You can give them the last name and everything, but he can't sign the birth certificate. Like, my husband will be on it. And he acted like everything was okay while the nurses was in there. But as soon as they walked out, he just got to like hitting me and like punching me and everything. And I'm like, Leonard, we are in the hospital. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Because I always wanted the best for him. And it sucks to say this, like, people don't understand until you're in that situation. Until you go through that situation, you will never really understand. Like, I would never make an excuse for myself, like, oh, I stayed with him because of this, or I stayed with him because of that. Like, that wasn't the case. Like, it was my own conscious decision, and I did stay. But I made the wrong decision. And that's why I say, like, if you have family, a lot of people are like, well, I'll step in one time, and then after that, if you go back, I'm done. That's not the way to go about it at all. Like, if you have a family member who's in a domestically violent situation, do not leave them, because unless, like I said, unless you're in that situation, you will never understand. Do not leave that family member. And at that point in time, I had felt alone. Like, my family really wasn't messing with that. Like, they're like, either you give us them kids or you leave him with them kids, or we're done. Like, we can't keep doing that with you. And I'm like, you know, I don't have to give my kids up. They're not being abused or anything like that. Like, but it's me, and they shouldn't have been exposed to it. But I stayed with him, and it was wrong, like I said. So that's why I say it's always important to stay in, you know what I mean, constant communication with those people, because at any point in time, you never know. I remember he got mad at me, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he ended up tying me up by my hands and my feet, like hog-tied. And I'm like, Leonard, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? We had a townhouse at this time. We were staying on, it's called Champion Road in Columbus. So I'm like, what are you doing? And he just is beating me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, he takes me, puts me in the basement, and just leaves me there. And I remember saying to myself, like, what did I do to you for this to happen? And there's nothing in my mind I can signify, like, justify somebody doing that to a person. So once I was able to get out of there and calm him down and stuff, like, it would have been over. I stayed the night in the basement. It had been overnight, and the next morning when he came down to check on me is when I was like apologetic, even though I know I had done nothing wrong. I was just, I'm sorry, like, we can fix this. Like, you know, let me see my son. My son needs me. He had been upstairs with his dad. So I'm like, my son needs me, please. And my other kids were up there too. So he lets me up. I'm bleeding and stuff. And he had to go to work. And I believe that's what really saved me from that situation, was him having to go to work. So I'm like, you know, just it's fine. I had told my mom, my aunt, I have an aunt in Warren, my godmom, and my son's father now, Roderick. I'm like, you know, I can't do this anymore. Can you guys please help me? They got me a U-Haul, and they were there within, like, it's a 2.5-hour drive. When I tell you they were there within, that day, they were there before he got off work. We packed that whole house within an hour, like top to bottom. And I never stole from this man. So he was selling drugs, and like, he had a lot of money. He was like, had a lot of money. I never stole anything. They were like, let's do this and that. I'm like, no, leave anything that's his. Only thing I took was stuff I bought. So I had bought him like it was like $600 a punching bag. I'm like, why would I leave this here for him to keep working out so he can come get me? Like, I'm taking that. So I took that. But everything else I left, it was like 10 bands in the house, like guns, all type of stuff. We left everything. So just because I was just done. So I ended up moving to Youngstown, and he stalked me to Youngstown. I remember him calling my phone telling me that he was on the corner of where my kid's dad, Gerald, was in CCA at. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's like literally 2 streets over. And I was scared, like, but everybody's like, he doesn't know where you live, so don't worry. I'm like, so we just sat in the house for days, like, not knowing. He was dating this girl named Ebony from Youngstown. So I'm like, I don't know, I was just really scared. I didn't know what to make of it. You know, I'm in constant fear. And so he just told me, like, you know, if you come back, you come back. But if not, I got this new girl named Ebony, and I'm not worried. And I'm like, all right. So situation, I had left him alone. So situation transpired in Youngstown to where I had nowhere to go. So I went back to Columbus, Ohio, where I ended up staying in a shelter. So maybe I was in the shelter for a month, and he seen me walking. It was snowing and stuff, and he had seen me walking, and he was like, you know, you got my kids, just let me give you a ride. And I let him, and he was like, you know, I'm a changed man, and I'm not gonna do that no more. Just come back. My kids deserve their father. My son deserves his father because we only had one kid. And I'm like, okay. So we go back and we start working it out. And then I ended up finding out I was pregnant with my son, King. And so things was okay at first. You know, it had been a couple months since he put his hands on me. And before in the past, I had put him in jail, I think twice, for putting his hands on me. So he kind of knew like I wasn't really about to keep playing with him about that. But now I just noticed that he told me like one day, he was like, if you try to call the cops on me again, you're not going to make it out. Like, I'm not going back to jail behind you. And that's exactly what he said. Like, I'm not going to jail behind you. And so I wasn't really thinking nothing about it. Like, you know, we have a kid together. You know, we live together. It's not going to be like that. And he shows, like, I was confusing his manipulation, and it was abuse. Like, it was a physical and a mental abuse. Like, I was confusing that with love, because that's not love. You don't hit on somebody you love. Like, you don't do that. There's been a red, like, cardinal here this whole time. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's up in that bush. And it's just like been here this whole video. So anyways, I really confused that with like love that wasn't love. And so he started eventually putting his hands back on me. He had this big knife. It was like you guys can't really see. It was like this. It was like a big hunting knife. He's from Alabama, so it was like a super big knife. And one day we had got into it. Once again, I probably don't even remember what it was about. Like, I can't sit here and say I don't even know. We used to fight about the stupidest stuff. And the knife had like these ridges on it. It was a big silverish knife, and it had big ridges on it. Like, it was a hunting knife, a deer knife. That's what he called it, a deer knife. And the end was so thick, it reminded me of what's that called? Like a brick, but that's how heavy it was. Heavy. He picked it and chucked it at my head and split my head open. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I'm done. I have to go to the hospital, 1, and 2, I'm done with you. Like, I'm not doing this no more. And he was like, bitch, I'm not playing with you. Like, I'm not playing with you. If you leave me, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your family, etc., etc. And I'm like, well, just take me to the hospital, because he told me like where his mindset was. And he knew I had already called the cops, and he had already previously told me, like, if you call the cops again, you're not going to make it out of that. So I'm like, trying to make it okay. Like, you can go to the hospital with me. Like, it's nothing like that. If it was something like that, I wouldn't tell you come to the hospital with me. You get what I'm saying? So he so dumb. Like, we get to the hospital, he is threatening me in front of the security officer. And the security officer had told me, he was like, did he do something to you? And I'm like, no. He was like, well, come in the back room with me. And so I went back there with him. But before I went, he started tripping out on the security officer. He was like, I ain't do nothing to her. She's fine. She don't got to go nowhere with you if she don't want to. And he was like, I already knew in my mind, like, when I leave here, all my stuff is at this house. My kids are at the house. Like, it's just, I can't do that. You know what I mean? I have to go back. So I didn't really say anything. I didn't say nothing to the police. I didn't say nothing to the hospital. I had, with him, let it go. And it kept happening. It was a repeated cycle after that. One day, he had his friend, he's from Youngstown too, but I'm not even gonna say his name because I'm still cool with his girlfriend. And if she wants, you know, she could validate every single story, and there's plenty of stories. I'm only giving you a couple of instances, but she'll be on this, she'll see it, but they'll validate it. Like, he beat me up on the side of the house in front of him. He had to break the fight up, and I'm like, once again, 5.5 months pregnant with his son, and he really just sat there, beat me up. That night, I ended up going into labor with my son, and I kept telling him I was in labor. He didn't listen, and about 6:30 in the morning, I was just like, Leonard, I cannot take this anymore. I have to go to the hospital. He's like, no, it's nothing wrong with you. I got to go to work. Ain't nothing wrong with you. And I was like, yes, there is. So I went inside in the bathtub in a hot bath, and I remember thinking to myself, like, something's not right. Maybe you got a boo-boo. So I went inside on the toilet, and when I did that, I felt my son's head drop. I could feel it at the bottom. So I'm like, Leonard, the baby's coming out now. Like, I feel him, call 911. He came in there, and he was like, how do you know he's coming out? And I was like, you can feel touch. And he touched and felt his head. Next thing I know, he punched me in the side of my head, and my head So this is the toilet is right here where I'm sitting. There's a wall on both sides. My head bounced off the wall, and he was like, why can't you be more like Paris? I'm like, his other child's mother. He was like, she carried my kid full term. Why can't you? This the second baby you had as a preemie. You're not shit. You're a bad mom. And I remember thinking, like, how can you do this to me? Like, how? I had my baby at home on the couch. I held him in and I have, like I said, there's incident reports, photos of everything I said. Any story I tell, I have proof of. So I had my son at home on my couch and with him hitting me. So, you know, that's really a point in time I was, like I said, very low. We would walk to, thank God, the hospital, like literally, if you know where Champion Street is in Columbus, Nationwide is literally a block away. So it's maybe a 5-10 minute walk with the kids. So we were up there every day. He was in there for like 3-4 months. And when he came home, you know, when we were in the hospital with him, the people would ask, like, it's not normal for you to have the baby this early. Is he doing something to you? And I would constantly tell them no, like, there's nothing going on, and I would lie. So when we got home, like I said, Children's Services got involved. It was just a bad situation, but I never lost my kid. So long story short, so then we both ended up moving to Alabama. We went to go stay with his mom, and this is the story I'm going to tell you guys about. I just was giving you guys a little bit of background. So there's a lot more. Like I said, there was so much more. And then maybe if, you know, in the future, I will tell my story, you know what I mean? But really, even right now, there's a reason why I'm telling these stories. So if you guys know me or friends with me, you guys know I don't put my business out. Like, this is abnormal for me. So for me to come out and tell my story, I really hope this video reaches somebody, and for myself and for somebody else, you know what I mean? I need somebody to tell me what to do, somebody to give me guidance. And I need also, what if this reaches somebody and saves somebody's life? You never know. Like, you never know what you're capable of until you go through it. Like, there's millions and millions of women who are domestically abused, or men abused a day. So I'm no more important than them, but I will tell them, like, there is help, there is a way out, there is somebody that loves you. If you need me, I'll talk to you. Like, I've been there. But anyways, so we're living in Alabama. I go and I leave to go to the store. I come back, I drove his car. He went to work. He worked the night shift. So I had my 2 sons at his mother's house, is where we're living, in the trailer in the backwoods of Alabama. There's nobody that lives on the street that they live on but his family, like nobody else. So I'm like, go to the store. I come back. Soon as I walk in the house, he is tripping. His eyes are like this, like, where you been? Like, I'm like, and he was on drugs and alcohol too, like a lot. So I'm like, Leonard, I just went to Walmart to get diapers and stuff, and I'm showing him and stuff, but he didn't care. He's like, oh, I got something for you, bitch. I got something for you. I told you gonna stop playing with me. You gonna stop playing with me. I'm about to kill you. He like, you back here, you're dumb. Why would you come on my territory and play with me? Look, it's a cardinal. Oh my gosh. I don't even know if you guys can see it's in that tree. Once it flies, I'm gonna try to show you. So anyways, they've been here the whole video. So anyway, he like, I'm about to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I know he's not playing with me. I just felt it in my heart. I seen it in his eyes. I knew he wasn't playing. And I said, any other time when we fight in Ohio, you know, for some reason, it never really got carried to that extent. So I never really took him as the point to kill me, because he is my kid's father. We have 2 kids at this point, and I'm pregnant with my daughter Layla, and he very well knows this. So I just didn't think that it was going to escalate to that, and it did. So he told me he was going to kill me. I grabbed my phone and put it behind my pants, like inside my pants, but on my butt part. And I went in the bathroom and I called 911. I was whispering. I was like, yes, I'm at 100 County Road. And I'm like, he's about to kill me. He told me he's my kid's father. We have an extensive documented history of abuse in Ohio. You know, I have open cases against him right now. You know, he's my kid's father. He told me he was going to kill me, and I know he is. As soon as I said that, he kicked that bathroom door down, and he was like, oh, you really called the police? I'm about to kill you, and grabbed me by my hair, dragged me from the bathroom down the hall to the living room, where his mother, his stepfather, his twin sisters, my 2 sons were all at in the living room. Proceeded to go over by the counter, and he grabbed that knife, that hunting knife I told you about. He grabbed the knife, he threw me on the couch, and he began stabbing me. So let me help you understand the law. Once he said he was going to kill me, it's premeditated. And it becomes attempted murder at that point. There's no assault. This is not domestic violence. This is now assault. He's just began stabbing me. And I remember on like the 5th stab, and I try not to get emotional when I tell this story, but if you don't believe in God, I'm here to tell you there is a God. On the 5th stab, I said to myself, I said, God, I know you're real. Please don't let this man kill me in these backwoods in front of my kids, because nobody will find me. I knew nobody would find me. I knew they wouldn't find me. And as far as from his house to where the city is, it's a good 30 minutes. Like, he's in the woods, And I knew I had only called the cops maybe not even 5 minutes prior to that. And I said, God, just please don't let him kill me. I just began praying in my head because I didn't want to agitate him either. So he just still stabbing me. That was at around the 4th or the 5th stab that I started praying. And I just was like, God, please help me. And he just kept going and going. And a total of 11 stabs. The police busted in the front door. Everybody standing there. His mom, let me tell you, his mom and them the whole time, nobody attempted to stop him. Nobody was like, get off of her, move. Nobody did any of that. His mom was like, Leonard, stop. Like, that's all she did. That's all she did. Mind you, she and her husband have both seen him abuse me up until this point. They've seen it for their own eyes. They've heard stories. They know. She's like, Leonard, stop, whatever. Nobody did anything. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, don't let me die in these woods. Like, my kids is right here. Like, don't let me die. Like, I promise God I'm going to change. Like, nobody, like I said, this video is not about that, but nobody knows. Up until that point, I hadn't really lived the best life before I met Leonard. Like, I was living a fast life, if that makes sense. Like, I was acting out at a young age. So that's how I ended up with my child early and stuff, like kids early. So the police busted in the door and they saved my life. Like, they pulled him off of me, and he begins fighting them. And I'm like shocked. Like, it's a lot going on. And in total, it was like 13 or 14 officers in the living room trying to get him down. They had to tase him. They were all like trying to get him down. Like, I seen no type of abuse towards him. Not at all. Like, anything they did is justified. He was trying to kill me. So his mom calls my cousin, because he broke my phone. He smashed my phone during that altercation. His mom called my cousin. She had her number, and she was like, you need to get here now, get your cousin, being very disrespectful about it. Like, she wouldn't even talk to me. I'm like, Lorraine, he just tried to kill me. You know that. The police are documenting everything. She tried to hide the knife and everything. Like, that's how much of a ride or die she is for her son, and she's always been like that. Like, always been like that. Like I said, in other stories, I could tell you how she was. But, so she like trying to hide the knife, and I'm like, the knife is right there. He had like threw it under the couch. I told him where the knife was and everything. They're documenting everything. Like, I got stab wounds all over me. Me and my cousin, when we left, like, so anyways, she called my cousin. She like, you need to come get your cousin. My cousin, it was the oddest chance, was in Birmingham, Alabama, which was 30 minutes away. By the grace of God, like, it wasn't planned. We didn't know nothing. So she was there immediately and got me and my kids. Like, we ended up having to go to a Rite Aid and get those liquid bandages and clean that shit up ourselves. Like, we were over there sewing myself up. Like, I didn't want to go to the hospital or none of that, because so then me and my cousin, we had to like go to a Rite Aid, and we fixed my wounds ourselves. Only because up until that point, he had been released from jail a handful of times for abusing me, all types of things. It was just a constant ongoing thing. So he had always like got out, and I was scared because I'm in his territory. He has family members, like his first cousins are police. I know that he has told me that he killed somebody before. Like, he told me that. So I was just really scared. So I'm like, let's just get out of Alabama. So we fixed it ourselves. Like, we used invisible glue and some stitches, and we just fixed it ourselves. And I was pretty confident that I was in the clear, and I kept calling to make sure he was still in jail, and they said yes. I'm like, if you guys need me to testify, I don't mind. I don't want him to get out of jail. I'm pregnant, you know, this is not what it is. And so they were like, well, we'll update you when we have information. They had my phone number. Mind you, I was living with him and his mom, so I didn't have an address, and that was my fault because I didn't have an address for a while. for like maybe a year and a half after that, because after that I had nothing. No, you know, at that point I had been isolated from my family, so I didn't have their support. And then like I had no money, no nothing. It was just me, my cousin, and my kids, and some things transpired with us, which led me, long story, it was a bad situation, but I never lost my kids, like I said. So I ended up staying in contact with his mother. And then around his birthday, which is December, this incident happened in March where he stabbed me. In December, it hadn't even been a year, his mom called on three-way. He was in a halfway house in Talladega, Alabama. And I'm like, how are you in a halfway house? How did they let you out for trying to kill me? Like, that doesn't make sense. He's like, well, whenever they arrested me, they abused me, so they don't want me to press charges. So it's like kind of like a hush, like a trade for a trade. What? But I'm scared of this man, and now I know he's out. I don't want no problems. I'm living in Atlanta now at this point when he got out. I'm like, what? And I was still homeless and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't want, how did they let you out? It doesn't make sense. And so I'm only a couple, not even an hour and a half away from him. I'm like, it doesn't make sense, like how they let you out and stuff. And so I just never really questioned it. I was more so scared. He would threaten me from time to time. Like, it was really a lot mentally, and I was still traumatized. Like, I had almost lost my life. And up until that point, he had like pistol with me. He had, this is from him, this is from him, this is from him, this is from him, and they're all from weapons. So, and then my body has all over. Me and my cousin had to, like I said, stitch up 11 different wounds on my body. So up until this point, I'm terrified, and I don't even want nothing to do with it. For some reason, this past weekend, it hit me like, Tiara, what happened? Find out what happened. Find out what happened. And I was like, okay. So I get to Googling his name and this and that. You know, I see he's bought properties and this and that, but I also see he has a big lawsuit against the police department that arrested him. So he wasn't lying. He's now suing the police department because when they got to the jail, he's claiming they hit him. So long story short, I reached out to the police officer's lawyer, and he said, hey, give me a call Monday, Tuesday, and I did. I also reached out to the investigator who would be handling my case. This is all happened in Clanton, Alabama, Chilton County, and the incident actually occurred at his mother's house in Verbena, Alabama. So I'm sitting here like, hey, you look pretty. Oh, I like your dog. Oh, yep. Oh, I'll talk to you 1 second, okay? I'm making a video. Okay. That's my daughter's friend. So anyways, I ended up reaching out to them. The investigator who's handling my case in Clanton, Alabama, hasn't returned my calls or anything. And that's fine. But the lawyer who's handling the police case did. And he told me exactly what he's suing for. And I'm like, there's no case there. Please, I'm begging you, do not settle with him. And he said, well, the way things look is like we may not have a choice because it will cost more to take him to trial than to settle. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, he tried to murder me. That makes no sense. I ended up reaching out to the Attorney General and everybody. Like, this makes no sense. I'm trying to get a lawyer. I can't even get a lawyer because they want like $5,000 retainer fees and then $300 an hour on top of that. I'm a mother. I have 6 kids. I can't afford that. You know what I mean? But I also found out my case is still open. They've been sending my letters to his mother's house. I call his mom. Miss Lorraine, have you been getting letters for me to go to court against your son and you've been keeping them? No, I wouldn't do that. Why would I do such a thing? You never got nothing here. I let that go. So I said, okay. I said, so what's next in this case? I'm going to pursue this. They're like, well, it got bound over to the grand jury, so if you can give us your number and your address and we'll keep you updated as it goes. Yes, I want him in jail. And why is he getting charged with an assault? So right now he had 6 charges in total. Now he only has 2 charges. One because he had Xanax on him. So he has a drug charge, and then he has an assault charge from when he stabbed me. But why is that not attempted murder? Why is he out of jail? Now, I also have proof of this. He still calls and threatens me to this day. I just got a new number. I have it on, a recording of him calling me private, his voice. Oh, I'm about to come kill you and your kids, cursing me and everything because I didn't let him file my kids for taxes. Mind you, word to the Lord, he does not do anything for my kids. He doesn't offer to send any dollars. He doesn't offer Christmas. He doesn't do anything. Like, since he's been out, he hasn't done nothing, and that's okay. I don't want nothing from him. I don't want him to know where I live. He doesn't pay child support. Stay out my life. But he still finds a way to harass me. So I said, okay, I need to find a way to take this to the fullest extent. Like, Alabama, the city of Clanton, Alabama, the county is Chilton. They should be held responsible for letting him out of jail. He still threatens me. Why would you guys let him out of jail? He never went to prison. He never had to answer to these charges. This happened in 2019. This is 2022. The case is still open against me. I had to find out everything by myself this past weekend. It took me a while to even get to the point where I can talk about this. It took me a while to understand that I am traumatized and that, you know, I hate to use the word victim, but I was a victim. Like, you know, I've never wanted any type of compensation. I never wanted anything. I never wanted sympathy. I never wanted anything. There was nothing that I could gain from this. But now I'm going to speak out about this because Alabama is wrong. Leonard is wrong. He is wrong. He tried to kill me multiple times. He abused me for many years, and I allowed it. But I feel like my story may save a life. My story may change somebody's life. Like, somebody may look at their spouse and say, I want better for myself. I don't want to do this anymore. When I tell you it was by the grace of God that when I started praying, God sent those police in there. There was no way they should have been there within 10 minutes. It was a 30-minute drive. There was no way. But by the grace of God, he saved me. And there's many instances, like I can remember we were on the highway one time and he was just beating me up. Like, I punched him back and the car swerved. We hit the side of the road and everything. Like, there's many instances due to his abuse. I should not be here, but I am. So I just want you guys to know it gets easier. There is another day. And if you would have any advice on what I should do as far as this stabbing incident goes, what I can do, because like I said, they don't care about me. They don't care if I protect myself. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. He can come here right now, and because they let him out of jail when he's tried, it's admittedly too, he waived his preliminary hearing. He had one, he waived it because there was too much evidence against him. You know what I mean? They had the knife, they had the photos, they had me calling 911, but for some reason they let him out of jail. Why did they let him out of jail? Because when he got to the jail, they put hands to him, which was not wrong of them. He was stabbing me. He was trying to kill me. So I'm sure when he got there, he was aggressive hitting them. But because they want to cover their tracks, now they're like dropping, like, not, they didn't drop it because my case is still open, but they're like trying to like hide what he did to me. And I believe that's why the investigator hasn't called me back yet, but that's okay, because I need to find, if anybody knows a lawyer who will take a case like that and take it on the back end, like, I don't mind that, but I need justice for myself. I need justice for myself. Alabama needs to be held responsible. Leonard McGaskin needs to be held responsible. He's my kid's father. He tried to kill me when I was pregnant with my third child by him, the only one who made it like full term. The other two children by him did not, like, but they're here, they're healthy. I have full custody of my kids, and I'm in a better relationship today. Like, I flourished. I live in a good area, like, but I suffer with it daily. People ask me all the time, like, you look like you have the avatar mark, like, you look like the tree stump. Like, people say cruel things to me. I deal with this every single day. I'm a parent to our kids together. He doesn't help, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I want him to be held responsible for what he did to me. Years and years of abuse. And like I said, I have not had justice for anything he's done to me. I have plenty of documents, hospital records, police records, everything. Everything I need, I have, but I just don't know what's next. I spent a lot of time this past week, because I just started calling around this past weekend. I spent a lot of time trying to reach out to lawyers and different people and see what to do. But everybody tells me I have a case. Everybody tells me I can do something, but nobody's telling me what to do. Nobody's telling me how to go about it. They're just telling me, like, well, this is the fee and all this and that. And then it's just a lot. Like, not just that. If I can't do that, what I'm gonna do, I'll be an advocate. I want to be an advocate. I want to help people because, like I said, it's taken me a while to overcome what I've went through. A lot of counseling, a lot of therapy. It took me a lot to be where I am today, and it's still not an easy thing for me to talk about at all. Like, so I just hope that somebody can give me some advice. Please share this. I'm gonna post this picture just because I want people to know what type of monster I was dealing with, and I want them to know who this monster was. I definitely appreciate everybody. Thank you.